Can I start by asking about a story that's being reported this morning about a Labour MP videoed in an altercation with a member of the public? Is the Labour Party investigating?
Mike Amesbury, who's the MP in question, has gone forward to police. He is cooperating with any investigation they would want to take forward. It is a matter for the police and we want to allow them to do that work. OK. So the party is not involved at the moment? Or government? Mike Amesbury has issued a statement setting out that he will cooperate fully with the police. I think that's the right approach. And, of course, the police should now act in whatever way they see fit.
All right, let's talk about this week's big event, the budget. You've told us again and again that your priority is growth. How does whacking a tax rise on the payroll of 5.5 million small and medium-sized businesses help to deliver growth?
You know as well as I do that ahead of the budget, and we don't have very long to wait, I'm not going to speculate on tax measures that are matters for the Chancellor. That's more than my job's worth to do that. What I can say...
This is going to be a very short interview if that's what happens.
There's a lot of other ground we could cover, but that is the general starting point. I think what I can say is that we've been clear consistently that we want to make sure that working people are supported. That's why we set out in our manifesto that we would not be increasing VAT, national insurance or income tax on working people. We hold to that. And in the pay slips that they see after the budget, they will not face higher taxes.
Yeah, that's working people. And to be clear, I mean, I'm not making this up. I haven't got the imagination. This is being briefed out by the Treasury. The idea is that there will be a rise on employers' national insurance. And the question is, how does that help in growth? The Federation of Small Businesses says it's going to increase the choice, the cost of hiring a worker on average wages by £600. That is not an aid to growth, which is supposed to be your single central objective.
Growth is the number one mission of this government because we know in order to invest in our public services, we've got to break this terrible cycle we saw under the Conservatives where we had high taxes and low growth. But, of course, as I say, it's just a matter of days that you have to wait till the Chancellor sets out all of those measures in the budget. But specifically on growth, skills is one area where we need to do a lot more and where I, as Education Secretary, I'm making sure that we're getting started on that work to make sure we've got the right skills and the right places so we can build the homes, invest in the infrastructure that we haven't seen in recent years. And we do face some really tough choices. We've been completely upfront about that. We face some tough choices, but we need to restore stability back to the economy.
But this must be an issue of worry to you then. You're going to spend all this money and lavish all this care giving people new skills, and then potentially there's no jobs for them because nobody's hiring them because, let's say, a government decides to put new raise payroll taxes. That must be an issue for you, mustn't it?
I've got a lot on my plate as Education Secretary, and the massive skills shortages that we see across the country are certainly one of them. And there's an awful lot that we can and already are doing as a government. We've kick-started the creation of Skills England that will drive forward the skills we need in construction, in offshore wind and much more besides. But the choice at this budget is, do we invest in the long-term prosperity of our country or do we accept we're on a path to decline? I think our best days as a country lie ahead of us. And this budget will fix those foundations so that we can get our country back on track. OK, there have been three buzzwords here. Growth, fixing foundations. The other one is working people. Prime Minister says working people don't include those who make money from investment. So is it OK with you to raise taxes on the savings of working people with ISAs? No, what we're talking about here is people whose main income arises from the fact they go out to work every day. And they're the people that we've been clear about, both in the election and now, that they will not face higher taxes in their payslip following this budget. But lots of people who go out to work every day have savings accounts and have ISAs and so on. That's the point of them. Of course they do, and that's incredibly important. Of course it is. So the idea that there won't be taxes on the money that those people earn might extend to their savings, might. Is it? You are once again asking me to speculate on matters that are for the Chancellor. It's a matter of principle. But we have set out and that we want to ensure that people who work hard and their main income comes from their jobs, that they get protection and support. And that's why our manifesto commitment was around no increases on VAT, national insurance and income tax. We hold to that, and that's what people will see in the budget. Well, actually, I'm glad you said what you've just said, because this issue of the pledge on income tax, VAT and national insurance
consistent thread before and after the election. One thing that's actually not absolutely clear in my mind, and clear it up for me, is that pledge good for the whole of this Parliament?
We want to continue. We want to see tax. We think taxes on working people are already too high because that's what they faced under the Conservatives. I can't speculate on either this budget or on successor budgets to come. You'll understand that. And if I were to do that, I would get in a lot of trouble with Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, when I came off your programme.
But have you said to the Chancellor, what do I say on Sunday morning when Trevor Phillips says to me, but you've been clear that corporation tax is not going up for the whole of the Parliament, but you haven't been clear on taxes for working people?
Well, we have been clear on that. I've just set out our position on that.
No, but you haven't.
But where
you
it comes
haven't.
to businesses...
You've just told me you can't speculate on what happens in the next budget.
Well, I can tell you what was in our manifesto.
Or not?
It was in our manifesto and we hold to it. What we want to see across the course of the Parliament
in your manifesto,
is more growth within our economy so that we don't have to turn to tax rises, as the Conservatives did time and time again.
I'm just asking you a simple point. In your manifesto, you don't say how long that pledge is for. You say how long the corporation tax pledge is for. You say that a series of other things are going to happen for the whole Parliament. For example, the triple lock on pensions. But you don't say how long this pledge, no VAT, no rise of VAT, income tax or national insurance, is for. And I'm simply asking you, can you tell me, is this a pledge for the whole Parliament or not?
I can't set out to you all of what's going to be in the budget on Wednesday, let alone what comes in years to follow.
I'm not asking you that.
But what I can say to you is this is a one-year budget, and then we go into a multi-year spending review where wider questions can be considered. For example, how we invest in the long-term infrastructure of our country. This is about fixing the mess that we've inherited, stabilising the economy and investing in schools and hospitals.
All you needed to do in the manifesto, and all the Chancellor needed to do in the many times she has said the sentence, there will be no rises in income tax, VAT or national insurance, is add the words during this Parliament, as she has done on all the other pledges, or many of the other pledges she's made. So we have to take it that there's no certainty about this, but that working people could face rises in income tax, VAT or national insurance at some point during this Parliament. Perfectly reasonable thing for a Chancellor to say, but why not just say it?
You don't have to take it. You'll have to wait until Wednesday. I mean, we can keep going around this, Luke, but, tax matters are for the Chancellor. What I can be absolutely clear about to you is that we don't want to see working people facing tax rises like this or under the Conservatives.
Nobody wants to see anybody.
And that's why growth is so important. Because if we get our economy growing, we can make different decisions about investing in public services and supporting working people.
All right, let's try and see if we can get some more clarity on the other side of the ledger, which is that's about day-to-day spending. Now there's going to be a lot of money spent on capital. You're going to get money for schools and so on and so forth. But she's got to get the money from somewhere. She said last November this. She said, I'm not going to try to fiddle the figures or make something different to get better results. We'll use the same models the government uses when she's talking about the fiscal rules. She's now said, and she's written it in a national newspaper, that she's redefining national debt. If redefining national debt is not fiddling the rules, what is it?
It's a straightforward choice between investment or decline, and this Labour government is on the side of investment in making sure that we stop our schools crumbling, for one. That's why in the budget we will be prioritising education priorities, so making sure we're committed to rebuilding 100 schools will get underway next year. There was another choice, a choice that the Conservatives might have made, which was about reductions in infrastructure spending. That is not something we were prepared to do, and it's why we're taking a different approach, because I think our kids deserve to go to school in modern buildings.
In order to give herself the elbow room to do that, and people say this change in the rules could magic £50 billion out of pretty much nowhere, she is doing what she said she would not do. She referred to it as fiddling the figures. That's what she's doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, here's what the former governor of the Bank of England says. He said, pretending that stability of the public finances is achieved by changing the definition of debt, deficits or the fiscal rule is an illusion. Financial markets know that higher borrowing means higher borrowing. Why isn't he wrong?
Well, there's actually been widespread support for what the Chancellor has announced where it comes to her fiscal rules. So the two rules, one, day-to-day spending has to be balanced against tax receipts and income, so we can't be borrowing more than we're taking in as a country. Alongside that, recognising that we do need to invest in the infrastructure of our country, and it's why I can say to you today that we are protecting the school rebuilding programme, that we're investing in childcare, that we will deliver more primary-based nurseries, that we will ensure that we've got more support for vulnerable children going through the care system. Those are choices that you can make. The counterfactual is, were we not to do this, there'll be some even tougher choices than the ones we are currently facing because of the mess that we inherited.
We do not need to get to the hypotheticals, or indeed, as you put it, the counterfactuals. We can see what's already being making the money markets anxious. Gilt yields are up above, let's not get too nerdy here, but gilt yields are up above 4%. That tells us that the money markets are worried about the extent of government borrowing, so they're making it already more expensive. And let me show you something. We've got, here's our debt interest. And here's an interesting thing. We're paying more in debt interest every month than we're putting into defence, transport, the Home Office, immigration, and so on. These are the annual budgets, but basically that's what we're spending. Now, the point I'm really making is that all of those things you just mentioned, to protect them, we've got to make sure that we don't fall into the same trap that, let's say, Liz Truss did. Are you not worried about this level of debt?
I am, and that's why we're committed to bringing it down.
Well, you're redefining it, so you can borrow more.
I am concerned about it, and this is the mess that we inherit. After 14 years, this is the position
that
we find ourselves in. No,
but you're
we are committed to bring
it worse by redefining the debt so you can borrow more money.
We will bring it down, but we will do so in a way that is responsible and credible, with clear fiscal rules that drive those decisions. I mean, you mentioned Liz Truss. I mean, you look at what the Conservatives did to our economy. People are still paying the price for that. We are really conscious of it. And when we came into government, not only did we have that terrible mess, we had the £22 billion in-year black hole that we've had to sort out. And the Conservatives had some tough decisions on the table, and they ran away from them. So teachers pay for one. Teachers pay for one example. They got the recommendation from the peer review body. What did they do with it? They put it in a drawer, they ran away, they called an election. We then made the decision, the choice, to invest in education. That is the difference in this budget that people will see from Labour.
But you are proposing to solve the problem by borrowing more in the hope that eventually there'll be growth and it'll all get sorted out. You promised change, and from one point of view, let me put it this way. This looks like you're taxing more, you're spending more, and you're borrowing more. Is that the change you planned back to the 1970s when a Labour Chancellor had to run to the International Monetary Fund to bail us out?
Well, it's the Conservatives who've left us with this terrible mess. What I can say to your viewers,
building up the debt.
What I can say to your viewers is, yes, of course, these are questions about how public money is spent, about the decisions the Chancellor will take on Wednesday around taxation, around spending. But there is an awful lot that we as a government have already got underway. So as Education Secretary, in the little over the 3 months that I've been in post, we've started a new programme of rolling out breakfast clubs in all of our primary schools. We are creating more nursery places in primary classrooms. We are investing in the early years. We've launched Skills England. We're reforming the apprenticeship levy. We've launched a curriculum review. Yes, it's the budget. Yes, it's the budget. But there is a lot more. And this is the change that people voted for, the change that I am determined to deliver, because education is a crucial part of how we fix those foundations. And there is no better place to start than our children's futures.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to ask you one quick question about all of this before we end. Your manifesto mentions working people 21 times. It mentions the phrase working class 0 times. Why don't you want to be seen as a part of the working class anymore?
We are. I mean, I'm proudly from a working class background, as are many of us in the Cabinet. Very proud to be so. What we're talking about here is people...
You're the first Labour spokesperson who's used that phrase in the studio during this series.
I don't think I'd be the last if you asked a number of my colleagues in Cabinet.
All right. Quick one on American elections. Foreign Secretary once called Donald Trump, amongst other things, a neo-Nazi. Vice President Harris says he's a fascist. Do you agree with them?
I think the decision that follows in the weeks to come, not very far away now in the US presidential election, is a matter for the American people. And as a government, we'll work with whoever the American people choose to elect as their next president.
And if we go to him and say, don't slap 20% tariffs on us, he's not going to be very friendly, is he?
You know, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has met with Donald Trump. Okay. We're committed to working with whoever the American people decide they want to be their next president.
Bridget Phillipson, thank you very much for your time this morning.